those that think it's raining, it is not. Rain is a definitional thing, and by order of the mayor, this is not rain. This, as I said at an event at the Metropolitan Museum of Art last night when somebody said sorry for the terrible weather, I said it's not terrible weather. It was God painting a canvas. Now, I've got to find something here. This is God telling us to clean the air. Does that work? Anyways, at the outset, let me thank everyone here at the Eastchester Heights Apartments for hosting us today. Summer is clearly at hand. After all, it is raining, but it is still comfortable. Building owners and managers across the city have basically shut down their heating systems for the summer, and that makes it a perfect time for buildings that currently use heavily polluting number 4 or number 6 heating oil to convert to cleaner burning and more efficient number 2 oil or to natural gas. And today we're announcing 4 new steps to help them do exactly that. Number 4 and number 6 oil really do pollute an awful lot. Number 2 is better. Natural gas is even better than that. And with the cost of natural gas coming down, there are lots of opportunities for people to do that conversion. But, you know, people talk about long-term climate change. Just think about this. This is the air we breathe today being influenced. This is the water that we drink every day. All of these things really have an impact today on us and our children and how we live. There are still too many kids being brought into hospitals with asthma attacks, and you can plot it versus where buildings are that use number 6 oil. There's a direct connection. So this really is a very important thing. Let me talk about the 4 things that we're doing. First, we're establishing a public-private lending program that will offer more than $100 million in financing to property owners to make heating systems conversions. Second, the Hess Corporation, the largest provider of fuel oil in the city, is also joining the conversion campaign by offering customers new incentives to switch to cleaner burning fuels. Third, we're expanding a partnership with the Environmental Defense Fund to provide technical assistance to building owners seeking to make conversions. And fourth, to meet the rising demand for natural gas across New York, our other partners in our Clean Heat conversion campaign, Con Ed and National Grid, will make major infrastructure upgrades to their natural gas distribution systems. Now, we're confident that these efforts will grow out of the Clean Heat initiative we launched in April 2011, and they're going to accelerate the phase-out of the most heavily polluting fuel oils in our city. That's going to have major health, environmental, and also economic benefits for New Yorkers. Today, in conjunction with the stepped-up conversion campaign, we're also setting a new goal of cutting the soot produced by buildings in our city by half by the end of 2013. Doing that will literally save 120 lives annually and prevent 300 asthma-related hospital visits each year. You really can connect numbers to these acts. The science really is very good. It will go a long ways towards our PlaNYC goal of giving New York the cleanest air of any big city in the nation. The heating system conversions that are critical to meeting that goal will also generate $300 million in construction activity over the next 2 years, creating something like 1,700 new jobs and giving thousands of New Yorkers more efficient home heating systems. Now, before giving more details about this new conversion campaign, let's just review some very important facts. 14 months ago, we issued rules requiring the city-wide phase-out of number 6 heating oil by 2015 and number 4 oil by 2030. And the reason is simple. While only 1% of the buildings in the city, some 10,000 in total, use these heavy grades of oil, burning them generates more soot than all the cars and trucks on our streets and roads combined. Just think about that. And that's a major contributor to often deadly respiratory diseases. And the most defenseless New Yorkers, the very young, the very old, and the already ill, are the most vulnerable to this pollution. So by the time these rules are fully implemented, we expect that they'll have saved the lives of some 1,500 New Yorkers and improved the quality of life of many thousands more. We're already off to a good start. Over the past year, more than 450 buildings have converted from numbers 4 and 6 to cleaner fuels. That's a 1-year record. Currently, another 1,000 or so buildings are in the process of making conversions. Among them are the Eastchester Heights apartment buildings, where we are. For many years, we've been heated by burning close to 1 million gallons of number 6 oil. And, in fact, they've been among the top 10 consumers of number 6 oil in the entire city. Until now, that is. And I'm happy to say that the apartments here are completing conversion of natural gas today. So this is going to be a very big deal for this neighborhood. The steps we are announcing today include the new financing resources we're making available, and we think that should pick up the pace of conversions even more. The $100 million plus lending program we're launching, which was put together with the hard work of the city's Director of Energy Policy, Sergej Mahnovski, and the New York City Energy Efficiency Corporation CEO, Susan Leeds, is a mixture of public and private funds, as so many things in this city are. The city is leading this program by contributing $5 million to a loan loss reserve fund that will allow a significant portion of the private financing to go to low and moderate income buildings. New York City's Housing Development Corporation and the Department of Housing Preservation and Development will offer $18 million in loans to city-financed affordable rent mixed income buildings. And many of these buildings may not have had any other ways to finance heating system conversions, so this really does let them get on board with the program. The balance of funds in the lending program, some of which will also be available to such affordable housing buildings and some which will be for more buildings that offer apartments at market rent rates, will come from 5 financial institutions, and these are institutions which I don't want to campaign for anybody and act as a commercial farm, but I've always believed if they do something for the city, do something for the country, do something for society, they're going to get my business. You can make your own decisions. But I wanted to say thank you to JPMorgan Chase, Deutsche Bank, Hudson Valley Bank, Citi, and the Community Preservation Corporation. As I mentioned earlier, along with the Environmental Defense Fund, we're also providing technical assistance on heating system conversions to building owners and managers. If you have questions about this process, you can get answers by calling 311 or going to the city's website, nyc.gov, and connect to Clean Heat. That's in keeping with our Clean Heat philosophy of helping property owners do the right thing. Before introducing our other speakers, let me point out that in April, the American Lung Association, which is represented here today by its Northeast Region CEO, Jeff Sealer, reported that air pollution in our city is at its lowest level than in more than a decade. And that's great news. Yes, it's great news. We all breathe this air, guys. That's great news. And the initiatives we're announcing today will help New Yorkers breathe even easier when the heating season resumes in the fall. So on that note, let me turn things over to one of our best and most environmentally committed citizens, as someone who has really been instrumental in building private sector support for clean heat alternatives, clean heat conversions, the chairman of the Durst Organization and the chair of the city's Clean Heat Task Force, Douglas Durst.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over the last 9 months, I've led the Clean Heat Task Force, which has brought together representatives of over 25 stakeholder organizations from the real estate industry, fuel providers, and utilities, building owners, property managers, contractors, and financial institutions. It is exceedingly rare that so much is accomplished so quickly by so few, but because of the work of the Clean Heat Task Force, we have created a practical and achievable plan to improve our city's public health and environment. Thus far, as Mayor Bloomberg mentioned, over 450 buildings have converted from heavy oil to the cleanest heating fuels. This led to the elimination of nearly 50 metric tons of fine particulate matter from our city's air. Based on these successes during the pilot phase of the program, the Clean Heat Task Force has determined that it is feasible to reduce by 50% the amount of PM 2.5 from all buildings that use heavy oil by the end of 2013. To achieve this goal, the task force proposed practical resources that the city could provide to help buildings. First, building owners and managers need information. Many of them are not yet familiar with the city's regulations phasing out heavy oil and the timeline for compliance. Today, with the launch of Clean Heat website and all of the great outreach that the city and the Environmental Defense Fund are doing, lack of information will no longer be a barrier. Secondly, buildings need technical assistance. Most buildings using heavy oil can convert to one of the cleanest fuels using their existing heating equipment, but the conversion process can still be complicated. For buildings that want to convert to natural gas, they not only need to coordinate with contractors and a fuel provider, but also with Con Edison to achieve the access to natural gas systems. Starting today, Buildings can call 311 and receive technical assistance from a team of clean energy professionals. This resource is free and open to all buildings that need to convert. Finally, the task force described the need for financing, particularly off-balance sheet and unsecured financing. Since nearly 50% of the buildings that currently burn heavy oil consist of a majority of rent-regulated units, we paid particular attention to finding solutions for buildings with tight operating margins and constraints in accessing financing. It has been a great honor to chair this task force, and I want to especially thank Mayor Bloomberg, Deputy Mayor Holloway for appointing me, and Stephen Caputo and Sergej for this great work in implementing the task force ideas. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Douglas, thank you. I also want to acknowledge, as Douglas did, the contributions of Stephen Caputo of our energy team at City Hall and also the Environmental Protection Commissioner Carter Strickland. I also want to thank our partners in the finance program for stepping up to make clean fuel conversions possible, and I would like to invite several of them to speak, starting with Priscilla Almodovar, Head of Community Banking at Chase. Priscilla?
Thank you, Mayor Bloomberg, and thank you, Douglas, and congratulations for your leadership on this issue. You know, on behalf of JPMorgan Chase, we are really excited to be standing here with our partners in city government, with Hess, and with the Environmental Defense Fund. It was about a year and a half ago that the mayor's staff reached out to us to see if there was a role for JPMorgan to help the city and the buildings in the city convert and switch to a cleaner fuel. They explained to us, and I'm glad you mentioned that statistic, Mayor, that 1% of the buildings in New York City, because of their use of number 4 and number 6 oil, create more pollution than all the cars and trucks in New York City. So I'm glad you mentioned that because that really stuck with us. They also explained to us that given the current price of where oil and gas were today, that it really was a good opportunity for building owners to avail themselves of that price preference. And also they explained, which Douglas mentioned, one of them, that financing and the cost was an obstacle, as well as the complexity of the process. So with all that information, we're delighted to be standing here after a year and a half to talk about this pilot program, which I'll just very briefly give you some of the highlights. Chase will finance upgrades for smaller rent-regulated buildings here in the Bronx. We're going to focus on the Bronx for now. The Bronx has the highest asthma rates in New York City. Again, very compelling fact for us. We'll finance the upgrades at no cost to the building owner. Hess, our terrific partner, very experienced, will perform the upgrades and the conversion work. The building will lock in the price of natural gas for 5 years, which is the lowest it has been historically. And Chase will get paid back from the fuel cost savings and the efficiencies that these upgrades will deliver. So it's a win-win for everyone. The building gets new equipment at no cost, better operating margins. The residents benefit because typically these upgrades are just transferred in increases in rent. So the hope here is the rents won't increase because of these upgrades. And the city's better. The Bronx is better because of the cleaner air. I'll end with a question that we got throughout the entire process. Why is Chase interested or partnering with the city on this New York City Clean Heat campaign? And, you know, for us, it's pretty simple. I think the asthma rates and some of these facts that you've heard about were compelling to us. But Bronx is very important to us. Look, we have 1,700 employees that live here, sorry. We have over 600,000 consumers that live here in the Bronx, 27,000 small businesses, so it's a very important neighborhood to us. And whenever we can, we try to do the right thing. It's our corporate responsibility, and it's a real privilege to have the opportunity to do so. So let's make it work, because it could really be a model for other parts of the city. Thank you.
Priscilla, thank you. Also with us, Gary Hattem, the president of Deutsche Bank Americas Foundation. Gary?
Thank you, Mayor. Deutsche Bank itself has a long-standing commitment globally to address climate change. We're one of the world's largest providers of capital for renewable energy in every corner of the world. We're very proud that here in New York City, our own corporate headquarters, 60 Wall Street, is the largest and tallest solar installation in the world, generating a good part of our energy needs at our building. We very much believe that energy efficiency is key to the global warming challenge. And through our Americas Foundation and Community Development Finance Group, we're particularly interested in pursuing ways that energy efficiency can lead to benefits for low and moderate income communities in terms of jobs, in terms of maintaining housing affordability, and importantly in terms of health outcomes. Last year, we commissioned a report, a very intensive data collection report called Recognizing the Benefits of Energy Efficiency in Multifamily Underwriting. And that report concluded that buildings that burn number fuel 6 oil supporting putting capital into buildings to convert to clean heat and to convert for energy efficiency. We're delighted that the mayor's legislation, Greener Buildings, actually captures 80% of the buildings that burn number 6 fuel oil. So we really do have the right legislative environment to cause buildings to invest in retrofits and to invest in conversions. Deutsche Bank, through our foundation, has made a $250,000 grant to the New York City Energy Efficiency Corporation, which is chaired by David Bragdon and led by Susan Leeds. And that company, with our resources, will be developing innovative financing tools so that no owner will not have the resources to make these conversions. We are also organizing the Community Clean Heat Fund, which is a $30 million financing pool that is being capitalized by Deutsche Bank along with other corporations in New York City that will be extending off-balance sheet financing at affordable cost to owners of buildings throughout the city of New York that will not have the opportunity to access conventional financing. We will be providing it at what we believe is an affordable cost. This partnership really very much reflects Mayor Bloomberg's policies of bringing the private sector together to serve a public goal, and it really follows on the heels of his very progressive affordable housing plan that we're very proud to be part of. So we're delighted to be part of this effort. Thank you, Mayor.
Gary, thank you. When you were talking about 60 Wall Street, my first job when I came to New York in 1966 was at 60 Wall Street. It was not Deutsche Bank, and it was not a big fancy building. It was a little dump of a building, but that's where I worked for a long time. By upgrading their natural gas distribution